What if Ahsoka tries using the world between worlds to save the Jedi during Order 66? Let's explore the depths of this scenario in the video. Ahsoka stares up in wonder at the endless void of the world between worlds. From the space, she sees countless portals opening up like doorways. Each of these shows memories and timelines throughout her life, the choices she made that led her here. In many of them, she sees Anakin alongside her. A sad smile forms on her face as she thinks back to her master. As her memories wander, the images in the portals change, shifting from her memories to Anakin's. Ahsoka relives their many triumphs together as she wanders down the spectral pathways. But as she ventures deeper, she feels the darkness beginning to grow as Anakin falls from the light. She wants to stop and turn back. Ahsoka was not around when many of these events happened, and she considers herself fortunate, as it prevented her from seeing her master become the monster he is now. However, she can't stop herself and sees the destruction Anakin causes for herself. Her eyes widen as she watches him betray Mace Windu and allow Palpatine to kill him, then lead the clones to storm and sack the Jedi Temple. Finally, she tears up as she sees Anakin and Obi-Wan duel on Mustafar, where the Jedi Master leaves him for dead. She can't stand this anymore and turns to run. Ahsoka only stops when she feels the weight of the dark side lift from her shoulders. Glancing around, she sees back shortly after the Battle of Coruscant, the waning days of the Jedi Order. Although Ahsoka knows she should not stay in this place, the temptation is too great, and she makes her way towards one of the portals and leaps through. From the darkness of the world between worlds, Ahsoka finds herself in the blinding light of the Coruscant skyline. She covers her eyes and watches as Anakin departs with the Chancellor.
Ahsoka? What are you doing here? Why aren't you on Mandalore?
She turns to see Obi-Wan staring at her incredulously. Although he's worse for wear, he looks just like the young man she knew during the Clone Wars. Without thinking, Ahsoka embraces him.
Oh, careful, Ahsoka. I still haven't recovered from my injuries.
Slowly, realization dawns on her as she understands what's happening. She then takes his hand and begins leading him away from the public eye. Once they are alone in the halls, Ahsoka looks up at him and begins to explain what just happened.
Ahsoka, is this some sort of joke? Did Anakin put you up to this? I have work to do.
It isn't, Master. Look at this.
She holds up her holodisc and shows the gateway of the world between worlds she recorded. Obi-Wan recognizes the image of the gods of Mortis and watches as it opens up to reveal the portal. When he looks at Ahsoka, his face is dead serious.
All right. I believe you.
The two agree to bring matters to the Jedi Council to take action. There, Ahsoka reveals everything she knows about the upcoming events, including Palpatine's identity and Anakin's betrayal. While they are initially skeptical, the evidence Ahsoka presents and Obi-Wan vouching for her is enough to convince them to listen. They decide to prevent Palpatine from taking action. Although Obi-Wan says he will head to Utapau, he secretly remains behind while another Jedi goes in his place. Instead, he remains on Coruscant to keep an eye on Anakin. Ahsoka also remains hidden until the time comes to strike. Obi-Wan will claim to be Anakin's handler, dealing with all the reports Anakin has. For the first few weeks, there is not much to report, as Palpatine keeps up his appearance of being a harmless old man. This frustrates the Council, who begins questioning Ahsoka's claims. Just as they are about to call off the mission, they notice a change in Anakin. While he's initially reluctant to spy on the Chancellor, he now seems more eager to spend time with him. He visits Palpatine even when they don't have meetings planned to discuss things, but Anakin's reports rarely state what these are about. This forces the Council to send in Ahsoka, who follows them. One night, she receives intelligence from the Council that the Chancellor is planning on heading to the opera and has Ahsoka trail them to figure out what they discuss. She follows them into Palpatine's private box and plants a recording device. She listens in and hears how Palpatine knows of their plan to spy on him and reveals this to Anakin. As the two continue talking, she hears her master confess to it, and while he tries to defend them at first, she feels his hesitation. This is already enough to condemn the Chancellor, But then he mentions Darth Plagueis the Wise.
Did you ever hear the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise?
No.
I thought not. It's not a story the Jedi would tell you. It's a Sith legend. Darth Plagueis was a dark lord of the Sith, so powerful and so wise, he could use the Force to influence the midi-chlorians to create life. He had such a knowledge of the dark side, he could even keep the ones he cared about from dying.
He could actually save people from death.
The dark side of the Force is a pathway to many abilities some consider to be unnatural.
Ahsoka takes this evidence to the Jedi, who recognize it as proof of Palpatine's true identity. Soon after, Anakin confirms it when he reports to Mace Windu. However, Mace takes the strike team to confront Palpatine but refuses to allow Anakin to join them, confining him to his quarters. As they reach one of the gunships, Obi-Wan looks over at him and nods. "Are you ready for this, Master?"
As ready as I'll ever be. I just hope we made the right decision.
Anakin cannot sit in his chambers and begins to sneak out. He hurries towards a landing pad, but a figure blocks his path. His eyes widen as he sees Ahsoka. "You shouldn't be here."
I could say the same thing about you. Are you gonna stop them from confronting Palpatine?
How do you know about that?
Master, you wouldn't believe me even if I told you. But right now, I need to ask you something. Do you trust me?
Of course I do, Snips.
Then come with me.
With a swift motion, Palpatine ignites his crimson lightsaber and leaps over his desk, striking with the ferocity of a cornered beast.
It's treason, then.
The room erupts into chaos as Palpatine moves with unnatural speed, his lightsaber a blur of red. Again, Kolar is the first to fall, cut down before he can react. CC-10 follows, his defense shattered by a series of vicious strikes. Kit Fisto holds his own for a bit longer, his saber skills formidable, but a sudden brutal thrust pierces his chest. As Palpatine follows up on the others, he meets Obi-Wan's and Mace's solid defenses. They hold back against his attack and shove him back.
We need to end this now.
Obi-Wan and Mace press the attack, their blue and purple blades clashing with Palpatine's red in a dazzling display of skill. Although the Chancellor is incredibly skilled and parries each of their attacks, the two begin to press him. As he steps back, Palpatine tries to search for Anakin's presence in the Force. To his surprise, he does not sense him approaching. Instead, Anakin remains in the Jedi Temple. The desperation fuels Palpatine, who lunges forward. Obi-Wan narrowly avoids a decapitating strike and then shoves Mace back.
Your feeble skills are no match for the power of the dark side.
With a forceful push, Palpatine sends Obi-Wan crashing into the wall. He then turns his full attention to Mace. But even alone, Mace is a force to be reckoned with, and he only seems to be growing stronger as the duel drags on. "The oppression of the Sith will never return. You have lost."
No, no, no. You will die.
With a sudden surge of dark side energy, Palpatine unleashes a torrent of Force lightning at Mace. The Jedi Master deflects it with his lightsaber, the energy crackling around him just as Obi-Wan regains his footing and leaps from the side. The Chancellor is forced to divide his attention as Obi-Wan nearly slices his waist. Mace swings his lightsaber in a single precise strike that catches Palpatine off guard. His defenses falter, and his lightsaber clatters to the floor. As the pair move to restrain him, Palpatine's expression never changes. With a final spiteful effort, he channels the dark side, the room filling with an ominous hum. Palpatine's hands shoot out, a wave of Force energy knocking the Jedi back. As the room shakes and debris falls, Palpatine makes his escape, leaving the Jedi to regroup. He leaps into his private starship and takes off as the two Jedi chase after him. While in the sky, Palpatine contacts Commander Fox.
The Jedi have betrayed the Republic, Commander. Execute Order 66.
The commander looks at him for a moment, straightening. He then shakes his head.
With all due respect, sir, you do not have the authority to give this command.
I am your Chancellor, Commander.
Not anymore, sir.
Palpatine is about to ask what he means, but then looks up to see the holoprojectors playing above them. There he sees Anakin before the Senate, confessing to him all the things the Chancellor has told him over the weeks. Recordings play of their conversations, and by an overwhelming majority, the Senate votes to enact Order 65. As he sees the confession, Palpatine notices Ahsoka standing behind him, and this catches his attention. She should be on Mandalore with the rest of the 501st. He feels her presence in the Force and notices how different it seems. Something isn't right, but he has little time to ponder on it now. He realizes that this is a battle that can no longer be won, and rather than head towards the barracks to meet with the clones, he flies off into space. Mos Amata is elected as interim chancellor and turns the Jedi's attention back to the Clone Wars. With the CIS Council still active, the Jedi must continue their war effort in the Outer Rim sieges. Ahsoka, meanwhile, decides to head to the portal in the World Between Worlds to return to her timeline. She departs for Lothal to the temple containing the World Between Worlds. She looks at the image of the gods of Mortis and activates the mechanism. But as the portal opens, laughter cackles behind her, and a voice sneers behind her as Palpatine appears, wielding his lightsaber.
All this time I've been searching for this place. And little did I know all it took to find it was one foolish little youngling.
Ahsoka whirls around and readies her lightsabers.
How did you find me?
You've only pushed me from my nest, but I still have friends in the government who keep me informed of everything. Now step aside, and I might let you live after everything you've cost me.
You will never get a chance to use the World Between Worlds.
Without warning, Palpatine lunges. His strikes are fast and relentless. Ahsoka brings up her lightsabers to block the attack. While her defense holds, the sheer power behind his attacks forces her back step by step. Despite his looks, Palpatine moves like a man a third his age. Suddenly, he pulls back and unleashes a barrage of attacks. His speed is overwhelming, his precision deadly. Ahsoka barely manages to keep up, each clash of their sabers sending sparks flying. She tries to counterattack when there is a lull in the fighting. Her movements are quick, graceful, and skillful, but ineffective. All her attacks are thrown back by Palpatine, who steps forward and continues his assault. Palpatine's movements are like a hurricane, relentless and unyielding. He feints to the left, then strikes from the right, his blade grazing her arm. Ahsoka backflips, trying to gain distance, rubbing her arm. However, Palpatine is on her instantly, his blade a blur. Sweat beads on Ahsoka's brow as she switches to a defensive stance, focusing on parrying and dodging, trying to stay alive. Palpatine's strikes grow more ferocious as the battle shifts in his favor. His red blade seems everywhere all at once. Ahsoka barely avoids a decapitating blow, now simply focusing on dodging the attacks and avoiding being killed. Palpatine pushes her back away from the entrance. Realizing she cannot win through strength alone, Ahsoka's eyes flick to the portal. Then her starship docked nearby. She parries another blow, then sidesteps, allowing Palpatine's momentum to carry him forward and leaving a small opening. She leaps back and lands near her starship, leaning on the controls. She begins activating the self-destruct mechanism. As she finishes tapping the buttons, Palpatine suddenly leaps up, bringing his lightsaber down and sending a deep gouge into her ship. Ahsoka tries to attack again while he's distracted, but Palpatine shoves her back. As she stumbles to the ground, Ahsoka looks up and smiles. Palpatine's eyes narrow as he senses her intentions. Palpatine leans back as the ship explodes in a pillar of fire. The blast throws the two of them back, but Ahsoka quickly jumps to her feet and sprints towards the portal and begins activating the mechanism to destroy it. However, as she finishes hitting the control, Palpatine appears behind her and she dives out of the way just as Palpatine's lightsabers slash against the wall. Ahsoka tries to block his next attack, but Palpatine twists his lightsaber until she drops her weapons. Taking his opportunity, Palpatine drives his lightsaber into her chest.
You have lost, young one.
So have you.
The countdown on her starship reaches its final moments. The icons on the wall begin to shift as the activation happens. The temple's structure begins to collapse. Palpatine, realizing the danger, attempts to stop her, but Ahsoka stands firm, blocking his path. The portal behind her flickers, its connection to time and space fracturing. As the starship explodes in a brilliant flash of light and fire, the shockwave rips through the temple. The portal implodes, consuming everything within the temple and pulling both Ahsoka and Palpatine into its destructive embrace. The ruins of the temple stand silent, a monument to the ultimate sacrifice made by a Jedi who refused to let darkness prevail. That's our theory. The Star Wars universe is a galaxy filled with exciting stories and possibilities, and we love exploring them. If you want to accompany us on this journey to a galaxy far, far away, then please like, share, and subscribe to our channel.